Hi, Ruth Vogt here with Fairway Independent Mortgage. Well, I'm hoping that by now you've received just enough information to kind of pique your interest a little bit about a reverse mortgage. But you're still not sure, is a reverse mortgage better for you, or should you fall back on the traditional forward mortgage? You know, that one where you make your payments month after month after month with the intent of eventually having a home that's paid free and clear. This explanation is going to really be focusing on the difference between equity and liquidity. The difference of the two being equity, you can't spend it. You can't take equity to the grocery store and buy a bag of groceries. You can't fill up your car with gas, not with equity, but you can with liquidity. Liquidity is that stuff that you just take the grandkids and go to Disneyland, or maybe you put it toward college funds for one of the kids. So let's look at a side by side and decide, is it best for you to pay month after month to a mortgage company with the intent of ultimately having all the equity, or is there really a better use of your money? Let's take a look. I'm going to screen share now so that we can look at the two side by side. All right, we're going to make some assumptions here. In each case, we're going to make the assumption that number one, you came to the close, you just finished a closing and you've got net proceeds or a combination of proceeds and assets of about $220,000. And you found a home that you'd like to spend that money on that's going to cost you $400,000. So both of our comparisons, both for the forward and the reverse, have those same two numbers to start off with. Now with a reverse, of course, as we indicated earlier in some of our literature, is based on your age, is based on the rate, and based on the location of the property. So current rates right now, based on an age of 72 years old, you would be able to finance $196,117 plus your closing costs of about $16,000 or at about a 4% interest rate. So I'm using that same comparison over here, loan amount of about $212,000. You can't finance closing costs on a forward mortgage. So the difference in the cash due at closing on the forward, if we went with that same loan amount, would be $217,000 for a forward, where it would be $203,000. Why? Well, because you finance those closing costs. This one on the forward mortgage makes it a mandatory monthly payment of $953. We're going to do the same thing here and make this optional payment. Did you notice that word optional? We're going to put in an optional payment to equal that same amount, which is the $953.77. Just because we're doing a side-by-side comparison, equal value. So let's just say that you get the reverse mortgage, same amount, make the same monthly payment of the $953.77. Now we're going to look at that on a side-by-side comparison. Let's scooch over here so we can put them. Sorry. Went too far. Bear with me there. Got slap happy with the mouse. All right, so here we have our house value on the reverse side. See, this says reverse versus forward. The home is worth $400,000 the day of closing, $400,000 on both sides. You on the forward side, on the traditional mortgage, you borrowed $212,000. Same over here on the reverse side. We're keeping it equal, $212,400. Same amount of equity, $187,600. Reverse side, $187,600. So everything is side by side, exactly the same. The difference though of that $220,000 that you started with, you had to bring in most of that to pay for closing costs on the forward side. So you ended up with leftover about $2,600. But over on the liquidity side, for the reverse, you still had $16,000 to maybe make repairs or landscape or do whatever you want, or maybe even save it. So let's take a look now and let's fast forward this, say to the age of 75, and let's see the difference between equity and liquidity. here we are at 75. The home value now is about 506,000. Same for the reverse. Your equity is not going to change. That's working with an annual appreciation of about 4%, which has been kind of the national average. On the forward side, you've got 320,000 equity. And you've got on the reverse side, 308,000. So it's somewhat similar. Over here on the forward side, you now have 3,500 in liquidity, but look what you have in liquidity over here on the reverse side, $100,168. 3,000 versus 100,000. If you're going to take those grandkids on a vacation, would you rather take them with $3,000 or would you rather have a little bit of extra spending money? So that's at the age of 75. Now let's fast forward to the point where you've actually paid off your 30-year mortgage. So now you're about 99. We're looking at about 99 years later. Sorry, we're looking at the age of 99. You've now got the house value at about 1.3 million. You have equity of about 1.3. You paid it off. Over here, you have equity of about 1.2 million, but look at this. What's your liquidity? Your liquidity on the forward mortgage is about $11,000. Over here on the reverse, 783,000. Now that liquidity figure is based on a combination of the 72,000 that's built up in savings, but it's also including your line of credit of 711,000. That line of credit is just sitting there waiting for you to say, I want my money. You just have to like write out a check and you can use it for repairs. You can use it, God forbid you needed to have in-home care, but you have that money now to be able to use any way you want. But you're saying, well, but let me rethink that because I'm not sure that's exactly how I want to set it up. If I were really doing a forward mortgage, maybe what I would want to do is not spend all that money at the time of closing and get an 80% loan. An 80% loan would have your actual loan balance at 320,000. Your unfinanceable closing costs are going to have to be paid. At that point, you're going to have probably about 6,000. So you're going to have about 326,000 that you have to bring to closing. Sorry, if your loan amount's 326,000, you're going to have about 86,000. That's 320,000 loan less the purchase price. So that'd be 80,000 plus your 6,000 closing costs. At that 3.5% interest rate means your monthly payment's going to be about $1,400. Now let's just make that optional payment the same amount, $1,436.94. And let's take a look at that and compare equity versus liquidity. This is just in reverse, forward, but side by side. All right, so now we have a house at 400,000. You have 80,000 in equity on this one because you financed 320, but now you are stronger on liquidity. You've got 134,000 in liquidity, and over here on the reverse, you had the same amount of liquidity, 16,000. Let's fast forward that 30 years, and now look what we have. We have a house that's worth about 1.3 million, same as we had before. We have liquidity on the forward side of 598,000, but look what you've got on the reverse side. You've got the same amount of home value, but your liquidity is 1.1 million. Now, if your heirs, if you passed and your heirs were to sell that home, they would still need to pay off the borrowed funds, but they're still going to have a home that's worth the almost 3 million, less whatever your borrowed funds were. And that liquidity is something, it's much easier for kids to decide how to divide up money than it is to divide up liquidity. I have to say that I think it's in the numbers. It speaks for itself. Now, keep in mind, it's an optional payment. You can decide to pay it toward the mortgage. You can decide to put it in savings or do whatever you want with it. It's up to you on the reverse. That's not true on a traditional. A traditional mortgage means in the deed of trust, it says right there, you don't pay, you don't stay. So I would challenge you to take a look at these comparisons and ask yourself, do you want to give your money to the mortgage company every month and never get it back unless you either sell or you refinance? Or would you prefer the control of making your own determination on what you want to do with that monthly payment every month? Give me a call, Ruth Vogt, Fairway Independent Mortgage, 303-881-7849. And by the way, that's my cell phone. So if I don't answer, just leave a message and I will call you back. Thank you.